Hello, Stuart here, and welcome to a brand new little series here on TV Rewind called the Nostalgia Trip. Now, as a lover of all things retro, I think it's great that the humble board game is still a thing today. Obviously not as popular as they once were back in their peak from the 50s through to the end of the 80s, but they are still around, and that can only be a good thing. Now, another form of entertainment that was at its peak back in those decades was the TV sitcom. So it's no surprise that these two forms of entertainment would often come together, with many board game spin-offs of our favourite comedies always proving popular. Example of one here. Now, this is a little later from the period I've just mentioned. This one came out in 1990. Obviously you will all recognise the sitcom, and probably many of you have got this game or at least have played it. But the games that we're going to feature in today's Nostalgia Trip are all ones that you may not know even existed. Out of all the board games featured today, this is one I think people will remember the most, and it's certainly one that I have fond memories of, as I had this myself back in the 70s. On the Buses was one of the biggest TV sitcoms of the early 70s, so it's no surprise when a spin-off board game was released in 1973. I used to love playing this game when I was a kid. Each player had a different coloured plastic bus which they had to move around the board, picking up passengers along the way, and the winner would be the last person to get 3 passengers back to the depot. Surprisingly, the game was re-released a few years ago, but it had awful cardboard buses instead of plastic ones. Rubbish. While the On the Buses board game was very much based on its TV equivalent, the gameplay of our next entry had nothing whatsoever to do with the comedy that it was based on. Instead, the George and Mildred dice game was simply the game Duel, but in different packaging. The marketing department at Dennis Fisher obviously spied an opportunity to boost sales by featuring the beloved TV characters on the box, and that is the only place they featured, by the way. They don't appear in the game at all. Games maker Dennis Fisher seemed to corner the market in TV board game spin-offs in the 70s, as they were also the company behind Are You Being Served? Another game that's quite difficult to find today. The object was to collect as many items of clothing as you could by wandering around the Grace Brothers store. Not one I've ever played, but I have to say it does look quite fun. Another one that looks fun is the Hi-de-Hi board game. Now, I must admit I didn't even know this one existed until doing the research for this video. Released by Board Game Legends Waddington in 1984, what the rules of the Hi-de-Hi game are, I'm not really sure, but just by looking at the box and the pieces, it does look like it captures the spirit of the show. I love the box art too. If any of you have played this game, then do let me know what it's like in the comments. Gotta get up, gotta get out, grab the world by the throat and... Sorry, couldn't resist that. Carla Lane's 80s sitcom Bread got the board game spin-off treatment in 1989. Sticking quite faithfully to the series' original premise of the various trials and tribulations of family life, the object of the game is to be the first character to be able to leave home by collecting certain things such as a job or a partner. The last entry today isn't actually from a sitcom, but as it's another game I didn't know existed until putting this video together, I had to include it. Plus, it's Morecambe and Wise. Made by those masters of the TV tie-in Dennis Fisher in 1976, the Morecambe and Wise game looks quite simple and straightforward, with gameplay consisting of rolling 4 dice and pushing the cubes with the corresponding pictures of the legendary duo out of a vertical frame. The player with the least cubes on his side of the board at the end of the game is the winner. Simple but effective. Thanks for joining me on this nostalgic trip back to when things seemed simpler. Hope you'll join me again next time. very soon.